Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Planning Commission meeting on March 3rd, 2026. If you would please silence your phones, we'd appreciate it. I would like to welcome some people here tonight. Robert Siebert, Township Attorney, Jill Baum and Ava Miller from Giffords Webster, Jennifer Brown from the Planning Department, and that's it. And us, and welcome. Would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I'd like to take roll. Rick LaBelle.
Here.
Kathy Vosberg. Here. Richard Brokart.
Here.
Brian Carr.
Here.
Ralph Jaworski.
Here.
James Klonowski.
Here.
Mark Renault.
Here.
Eric Heider.
Here.
And Carl Leonard. I'm here. I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes from prior meeting, February 17th, 2026.
Support.
Supported by Mark. Have a motion by Carl, supported by Mark, to approve the minutes. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. I'd like to make a motion to approve tonight's agenda as submitted. Have a motion by Carl, supported by Kathy, to approve the agenda as submitted. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. So we have a couple of public hearings on the agenda tonight, and you'll have an opportunity to come up and sign in and talk about it if you'd like, ask questions. Right now, we have public comments, and this would be about anything at all. It can be anything. It's a public hearing, though. You won't need to do that now. You can do that later. So with that, does anybody from the public like to come up and have any questions about anything? Any comments? Yes, sir.
Just for clarification, the data center that you guys are going to be talking about, will I have the ability to speak then, or should I?
Probably come up now.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Mark had told me that, I just wanted to.
Yeah, if you wanted to ask about it, it's on the last thing on our agenda. I'm not sure how deep we're going to dive into it tonight, but if you have some comments,
Sure.
I'd like to hear them.
They know it's not a data center. Correct. Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. All right.
And if you would, there's a button on the lower right.
How's that? All right. My name is Sean Wagner. My wife, Donna. We live just north of a M2 parcel on 24 Mile Road. Her family has lived there for 40 years. So just, we appreciate the board, getting ahead of the issues. We're kind of realizing that our little parcel's not going to stay our parcel forever, and everybody's coming in, but some considerations that we just ask of you guys as you're going through. Retention on site. So the Pitts drain is run south. OMEG is on the north side of our property, and there is a natural water course that runs through our property. When they redid 24 Mile Road, all the ditches somehow ended up coming onto our property. So if we don't maintain the ditch that's a natural water course, our property gets waterlocked. So however the retention of the water would be considered, we'd, appreciate that. The lighting, the 3,000 Kelvin, which I think they had recommended is a good temperature for, Lighting's kind of my niche, so it's a good color temperature to go with. We just ask that maybe you guys consider shielding, cutting off of the lighting source, because you guys are welcome to come to our property. Even right now, the lights from Texas Roadhouse, you can see the light pollution's already pretty bad out there. They have sensors that control, auto dimming, motion, so if maybe you guys can consider that. The screening and the setbacks, we just ask, we'd like to not walk out and see Google headquarters out there. So as maybe the buildings get taller, the setbacks get further, the screening also gets higher. And then last is just the noise, the decibels. The closed loop water system seemed to be would be a quieter source of cooling. And probably would have less of an impact on our water resources in this area. So with that, that's it. Thank you, guys.
Anyone else like to come up and talk about anything? Ask questions? No? All right, thank you. Bring it back to the board. We have two public hearings tonight, and I'm going to make a motion to open the first one. It's Mark. Have a motion to open the public hearing for Sheets rezoning. Motion by Carl, supported by Mark. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries. So the first one, it's Sheets, Inc., conditional rezoning number 378, requesting to rezone 3.448 acres of property located at the southwest corner of Burden Road and 26 Mile Road from MX2 to C3. Well, MX2 is county line crossing mixed use, and C3 general commercial. Parcel ID number is 15-09-01-100-005. The address is 56945 Burden Road. With that, we'll start off with Ava Miller from Giffords Webster. Oh, I'm sorry, Joe Baum will be doing this one.
I think so. Good evening. So this is this application for a rezoning is for a use that also requires a special land use approval. So we thought it would be easier to separate these out. The applicant indicated interest in moving both of these things forward together in a manner of being efficient and expedient. We'll do the rezoning letter first, the review, and you can talk about that, have the public hearing on that, and then move on to the next item. This particular case is a conditional rezoning, and for the members of the community that are here, a conditional rezoning is an option that an applicant has to rezone property, but restrict it off by offering their own conditions to what they will not allow on a site. This doesn't allow them to have any kind of variances or special approvals, and they can only do what's permitted in that district. So in this particular case, the applicant has proposed 4 conditions. Those include the inclusion of a 10-foot shared path along the 26 Mile Road and Burden Road frontages, paved pedestrian sitting area at the intersection of the shared use path. Amenities there would include a bike rack, bike maintenance station, bench seating, and enhanced landscaping. Enhanced landscaping along the western portion of the property adjacent to the I-94 freeway entrance, and permitted outdoor seating and dining areas, bike rack, and direct access to the perimeter shared use path system. In addition to that, the applicant has included a site plan and has included that as a condition of approval, in which case, should this be approved, this would be what would be built with the provision, with the extra amenities presented by the applicant. Their presentation of those conditions are related to The current zoning of the property is MX2, the county line crossings, and some of the goals of that land use in that zoning district, which are promoting their areas of walkability and more of a walkable pattern in that area. As we move through the letter, page 2 of our letter, again, just highlights the existing zoning as well as the zoning alongside that and to the north. To the north is, Lenox Township. The zoning there is general business, and it's developed currently with a 7-Eleven convenience store and a mobile gas station. The properties to east across Burden and then south are zone MX2, County Line Crossing. Those are currently undeveloped, and to the west is the freeway. If we move into the third page of the letter, you'll see some of the items that are included for consideration for making a zoning map amendment or a rezoning. And those include, the first one is consistency with the master plan. And there's some discussion there about how you may consider this use to be consistent with that. Thinking about the county line crossings concept plan, which is included on page 4, and the proximity of this property to that area as well as to the freeway. You will see that on page 5. The other impacts requested by the requested zoning on public services, utilities, and natural features. It doesn't appear that there would be any additional burdens at this time. The applicant has not provided necessarily evidence that the property can't be used as zoned, but they do have some additional information about the gas station and the appropriateness that they feel that warrants that change in zoning. Item 4 is a proposed zoning district and potential land use compatible with surrounding uses. We do note the freeway on the west side as well as the mobile gas station across the street, and some of the additional development further to the west and east in the area. Moving on to page 6, item 5, will the proposed zoning place a burden on nearby thoroughfares? It doesn't appear that there would be a burden on nearby thoroughfares since 26 Mile is the predominant roadway that would serve this use as well as the interstate. Number 6 is other land available for this use. There are other C3 parcels located along Gratiot and 21 Mile. That's a little bit of a distance away from this site. Many of those are already developed. Item 7, will development of the site under the proposed zoning be able to meet the zoning district requirements? We have the review that we completed for the additional review that we'll talk about later, but that is part of the consideration for that. Number 8, is rezoning the best way to address this request, or could the existing zoning district be amended to add the proposed use? So again, the intent of the M2 district is to provide for a village scale development, more walkability, commercial businesses, professional offices, hotels, technology, missing middle housing, and residential uses. It doesn't appear that that would be adding the addition of a gas station necessarily consistent with that district, the rest of the district. So we've included that in this review as well. Number 9, has there been a change in circumstances and conditions since adoption of the master plan? It doesn't appear to be that since the master plan was adopted in May 2021. And then the final question, would granting the request result in the creation of an unplanned spot zone? We have some additional comments there that while the request itself isn't necessarily consistent with the future land use map, which corresponds with the MX County Line Crossings mixed use zoning, the next item is a proposed zoning district, a logical extension. Thinking about the properties to the north, even though that is Lenox Township, and some of the parcels that are closer nearby, zone Z3, may be less of a conflict there. And that is essentially the review letter, but I'm happy to answer any questions that you have before you turn it over to the applicant.
Thank you. Is the applicant here tonight?
Good evening, Bob Kirk, 19500 Hall Road, Clinton Township. Thank you for letting us bring the Sheets product into the community. Dave Bruckelmeier here from Sheets, John Ackerman, Kimberly Horn, Ashley Reba from Skilk & Gold. Dave's going to go into more of the project, but going into the mechanism using the conditional rezoning, I think it fits perfectly for the reasons Jill set forth. Your MX district kind of mixed use, walkable area. However, this parcel is all the way on the west, near the freeway, which doesn't lend well to that. But I think our product being a Sheets with food, outdoor seating, benches, I think that lends well with the the intent of the MX district. So for those reasons, I think it works well. I think we have a good product that'll fit in there well. You know, we build attractive buildings and run a good operation. So that's just a consideration on that.
Thank you, Bob. Again, David Bruckelmeier with Sheets, 39300 West 12 Mile Road, Farmington Hills. It's a pleasure to be in front of you all again. It's been some time, but since we spoke last, we've opened up our site at 23 and Donner, and we hope you've enjoyed what we've done there. It was a great investment into the community, and we've been so happy to open up there. We've got all 35 employees there going crazy making food. If you've stopped in, we're pretty busy slinging sandwiches out of the kitchen. So we thank you for working with us on that site. So we're excited to present another site. If I could get the next slide, please. Thank you. A quick refresher on who Sheets is. What are we? So Sheets started in 1952 in central Pennsylvania. It started as a dairy deli carryout, and it was no more than, you know, a neighborhood convenience corner store. And in a lot of ways, we feel like we still are today. We're on the way to people's work. We're a convenient spot to stop and grab a sandwich or a cup of coffee. So we still hold true to those restaurant roots today if you've stopped in. A little bit of backup information to still being a family-owned, family-operated company. Today, 25 members of the Sheets family show up every day to make decisions in the business. Still a lot of input from the family, which is kind of interesting, you know, having 820 locations. A lot of places lose that family touch, and Sheets has yet to do that. We have committed to being a family-run, family-operated company. Going back to the restaurant focus of our store, I know that's something we've talked about and how we feel that we fit into the MX2 district here as an amenity on the corner. We have 30 indoor seats at every one of our locations. In addition to that, we have 16 outdoor seats. So we really put our best foot forward on our restaurant. We make sure we have a space for people to come in, enjoy a cup of coffee, grab a meal, maybe hop on the free Wi-Fi, and be on their way. Some examples of just what our sites look like. I know you've got an example at 23 and Donner, but we do provide some of the best looking architecture, full section brick and stone, really modern looking convenience store, restaurant, fuel station. And a quick reminder on what we provide to all of our employees, because I feel it's really incredible to think about. All of our employees that are full-time have health, vision, dental, 401k, paid time off, tuition reimbursement, and a whole host of other benefits that are available to them. And that's something really incredible. It's something that helps us become that #2 retailer in the entire country, which is something we've been really proud to be voted. With that, I appreciate you bearing through me with the refresher on who Sheets is. We'll get into a little bit more about what we're requesting tonight. So again, it's a request for a conditional rezoning agreement as well as a site plan approval. The restaurant is going to be our standard 6139 square foot building, which you've seen before at 23 and Donner. We would include on this location something a little bit different in that we have a mobile through pickup lane. So it's really just a convenience pickup lane. There's not an order station. There's nothing there to communicate with verbally or a touch point or anything. You just pull up to the window after you order on an app and you grab your bag of food. It's pretty awesome. So that's one small difference from the other site. And again, just a quick overview. This full parcel is 3.45 acres. We'll go through a couple of the challenges of development with this parcel here in a second. And this location will have 8 fueling pumps, meaning 16 fueling positions. So if you can look here at this site plan, it's hard to see, but you can, on the northwest corner of this site plan, there is a very large gas transmission easement. It's pretty large. It's one of the encumbrances of this property, which is why you see 3.45 acres, but our real developed property is much smaller than that because of some constraints along with that pipeline. There's an additional 25 feet of temporary construction easement should that pipeline ever need construction. So Couple of things there that make this property difficult to develop is a corner. And why we kind of fit so well, we're able to sneak this development up along the road because the west side up along the freeway ramp is just undevelopable with a large transmission line. So a couple of things of why you see the site plan laid out the way you do today, with the 2 access points on Burden, as well as our convenience store located to the south, and then the pumps up to the east along 26 Mile. One of the things we did want to take into account, we know this MX2 district is something that has been recently looked at, and we wanted to make sure we put a nice top-of-the-line landscaping plan in here. So we've put a lot of good street trees along the roads on 26 and Verdun, and then we've provided some other trees and shrubs as we can near that gas main easement. However, there are restrictions to large plantings in that easement, so a couple of things we had to balance out there. And again, just to reiterate that premium architecture, this is very similar to the 23 mile site. Full brick and stone sections, great looking building with a lot of glazing and a really nice look. Staff already went through the zoning conditions, so we can skip that unless anyone has any questions about those. And with that, I would love to take any questions or comments you may have to discuss with me.
We'll probably do that at a later time.
Absolutely.
We're going to bring it out to the residents, and then we'll go from there and see what questions come up.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
So this is a public hearing. If there's anybody from the public that has questions, comments, anything at all about this proposed gas station store, please come up and let us know. No one? Okay, thank you. We'll bring the applicant back up, and do you guys want to ask questions now or wait until,
We should ask questions about
want to ask questions now?
the recommendation for the zoning change.
Okay.
I think it closes the public hearing, don't you?
I could.
You close the public hearing and we ask questions.
All right, so, yeah, I had the applicant thing. So I'm going to make a motion to close the public hearing. Motion by Carl, supported by Mark to close the public hearing for the Sheets rezoning, conditional rezoning. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. So with that, we got the applicant back up, and we'll bring it up to the board. And Kathy, did you have any questions?
I have one. Thank you, Mr. Chair. The inclusion of a 10-foot shared youth path along 26 Mile and on Burden, can you describe how you envision that being shared, how that would work?
So this would be constructed ahead of the other developments that are proposed south of us, and that path we would envision, assuming that there are residential mixed uses down there, they would be able to walk all the way up to our site and around our site. So it's really future thinking of, potential bikers or walking path for people that could circulate around to our site.
And that would serve as your sidewalk as well?
Yes, that would serve
Required
as
sidewalk?
our sidewalk, and it would be a 10-foot wide shared use path.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Eric, got any questions?
No, I'm pretty happy with the condition rezoning portion of this, so I have no problem with that.
Thank you. Ralph?
This is just, didn't we approve something, a pilot or something over in that corner?
No, that was on the other side. That was on the east side.
Okay, so it was on the east side. So there was, but did we approve that or were we just talking about that?
I don't know if we ever got to an approval on it. Did we?
Okay, we did approve it.
But this parcel that they're looking at, I don't think we ever really
Right. I mean, where I'm going with it, it seemed like we had already approved something for that corner, and I'm thinking this particular, the Sheets, is across, it's next to the freeway. Yep, I think it's a better fit, and I,
Sure.
Mr. Chair, if I may, from what I understand, what transpired is, there it is. From what I understand, what transpired is we did approve it. If you remember, they were going to have a big Chesterfield sign in the front of the building. It was going to be a very nice place. From what I understand, because of the sewer situation, they had made a decision to build it at Wadham's Road in 994. And I believe that is completely off the table now.
where I was just going with that, I mean, it seems like that is a very good use for that corner, with this particular plan, so, and I do like the one at 23 and Donner, so thank you.
Thank you. James?
Yeah, we are just dealing right now with the rezoning. We're not looking at any site plan type thing, just rezoning, okay. Yeah, I think it looks good as a rezoning. I think we, being that it's separated on the other side of Burdon Road, I think it would fit well.
Thank you. Rich?
No questions. I think it looks good. Thank you.
Mark?
Yeah, everyone else, no questions, just to thank you for your presentation and what you submitted, because it was pretty complete and looks good, so thank you.
Brian?
Yeah, similar to what's already been said. I mean, when we did our master plan, I think the only reason why this is acceptable is because it's at the end of the mixed use, and there's really nothing that you can do at this corner. So the fact that they're going to utilize it, I think it's a nice bookend for a mixed use, to integrate into the mixed use. Because ultimately, we do want the mixed use, but I think this is a good bookend alternative because of the site restrictions, the shape, and the location. There's really not much else that would, go there. I think they have the best shot at being profitable and making it a nice, bookend of the MX. So I'm good with it.
Thank you. Rick?
Mr. Carr summarized exactly what I was going to say. The only thing that I'd like to add to it is because Sheets has the restaurant, it has the walkability, it has you walk in, you can have something, you can sit outside. The only caveat is that they sell gas as to what would go into an MX classification. With that, I think it's the right fit. Thank you.
Thank you. The chair has no questions. Pretty much everything's been asked, but I did want to make a comment about the Sheets on 23 and Donner. I waited a few months to go in, and I met the manager. I can't remember his name. Brad? I forget. Anyways, he's a real nice gentleman, and he kind of gave me a little tour. And I asked him, because when we had the public hearing for that, there was a lot of people in the audience because there was a lot of residential area around there. This one, I didn't think we'd have many people because it's, not filled with residential necessarily. And so I asked him how the residents were dealing. If you heard from anybody, he said they loved it. And he said many of them were putting in applications for employment. So it fit in real well. When he told me that, it just, in the other place, it was not a destination for anybody. This seems to, and it's always got people in there for different things, so it's done well. And guys are keeping it up real well, and this seems to fit that in lot as well. I think if we chose not to work with you on this, it might be a vacant parcel for quite a while until somebody else came in, was able to put something together. But if it's not a gas station, what? So that's all I have. So if you have anything else to add,
No, I appreciate your comments. Thank you.
I'll bring it to the board for a motion. We usually postpone this for up to
till the next meeting.
Just 2 weeks? Okay. So we're going to open to a motion from someone.
Actually, Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to suspend our normal practice on the rezoning and just put it up for a vote this evening.
Well, I kind of brought that up at a past meeting, and I think this is kind of a no-brainer, but I think we should probably stick with the same process, because we do have another public hearing on this, same item. And I think, I'll leave it up to the board, but we did postpone from the last meeting a recommendation, so I'm kind of thinking that we should maybe stay the course.
Take a vote.
I can take a vote. Kathy, tonight, or wait 2 weeks? Suspend the rules and to do it tonight or wait 2 weeks? Oh, okay, the motion was to suspend the process and vote on it tonight. We need a,
I'll support.
okay, so we have a motion and a support, so tonight or 2 weeks? Eric?
Well, we go both ways, because if we want to be consistent on our normal rulings, we should suspend it for 2 weeks. This is a no-brainer. I think everybody's on board that, this is perfect for a mixed use, because it is a mixed-use business. So I guess in this case, I think let's vote.
Okay, I don't think we're setting a precedent by doing this. I think we just, based on what we have, I don't know what's going to happen on the next part of this, but we can vote on this part if the board so chooses. Ralph?
I do agree that it's a no-brainer, but I have to remain consistent with my other vote, so 2 weeks.
Okay. James?
Tonight.
Rich?
Tonight.
Mark?
Tonight.
Brian?
Tonight.
Rick?
Tonight.
And I'm going to vote tonight just because I think that we have every opportunity to stay the course. And I think that, that's why we brought it back here. So with that, would somebody like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion, Mr. Chairman. Regarding conditional rezoning of MX, going from MX2 to C3, parcel ID 150901-100-005. This is 3.448 acres located at 56945 Burton Road. I'd like to make a recommendation. I'd like us to make a recommendation to the Township Board to approve this rezoning based on multiple factors. Let me go through a few of them. Number one, I find it very consistent with the master plan. And I am referencing the Giffords-Webster report that was reviewed earlier today. I think it aligns with the MX2 County Line Crossing Mixed Use Zoning District. Number two, there is no impact regarding this requested rezoning on public services, utilities, and natural features. Three, the applicant has not provided evidence that the property can be used in another way, but it does fit very, very well at the end of this spot. And I think we all echoed that sentiment. Number five, would the proposed zoning place a burden on nearby thoroughfares? I don't believe it will. There is other land available, but again, this is a unique application in a very specific spot, so I think it's very consistent with the master plan. It does not appear to be a site that provides a special value or a special advantage to the developer. For these reasons and the previous reasons, I move that we make a recommendation to the board to approve.
Thank you. We have a motion and by Rich and supported by Mark.
Mr. Chair,
Any questions?
Mr. Burkhardt, you said it was a rezoning. It's a conditional rezoning. If you can include that in your motion, that it is a conditional rezoning.
Thank you for that, Rick. Yeah, a conditional rezoning.
All right, we have a motion by Rich, supported by Mark for the conditional rezoning. And a recommendation to the board. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay, we have another public hearing here for the Sheets Inc. site plan, special land use, 3.448 acres, southwest corner of Burden Road and 26 Mile Road, parcel ID number 15-09-01-100-005. The address is 56945 Burden Road. So I'd like to make a motion to open the public hearing. Motion by Carl, supported by Mark, to open the public hearing for the Sheets special land use. And with that, Joe will do a walkthrough for us. Oh, that's you? You guys keep moving around here, so, all right, we'll let Ava do this one. Oh, that's, all right. Yeah, you threw me off. Motion to open the public hearing. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, guys. And with that, Ava Miller will do a walkthrough. Good.
All right, so I'm going to be looking at our review dated February 23rd, 2026. This review is based on the standards of the C3 district as if the rezoning were already approved. The applicant is seeking a special land use approval to permit a fast food restaurant and to permit a gasoline service station. While the Planning Commission is not permitted to ask for conditions related to the rezoning request, conditions may be placed on the special land use. I'm going to skip a couple pages, start on page 3. I'm going to mainly go through our bolded items that require Planning Commission or applicant review. So looking at the convenience store development standards, all of those are compliant. Found on page 4, the use standards for a gasoline service station are all compliant as well. Looking at item B at the bottom of page 5 for the fast food restaurant use, 2 egress and ingress are proposed on Burden Road. The southern egress is not on the subject property. The applicant shall provide information about this proposed access drive, and the Planning Commission may wish to discuss with the applicant if the proposed ingress and egress is adequate for the anticipated traffic and site circulation, particularly to and from the southern ingress and egress. The Planning Commission may also wish to discuss the traffic flow on the site and operations if the queue of vehicles exceeds the stacking area. The Planning Commission may also wish to discuss any nuisances or discuss noise mitigation with the applicant. Regarding building surface materials, the applicant is proposing brick and anchored cast stone veneer for the building. It appears that the materials are up to the recently updated standards for building materials based on the information provided. There appears to be an adequate impact barrier, and all elevations appear to meet the minimum area of brick. However, exact percentages are not provided. The other materials used are a stone veneer, a bright red metal seam for the roof and awnings, and a dark bronze roof equipment screening. The fuel canopy columns proposed are match the building. The Planning Commission may wish to consider if the building materials are acceptable. As for the corner clearance, the landscaping, fences, and signs do not appear to be in the clear vision triangle, but this should be provided on the plans to confirm. For tree preservation, on page 7 in the middle, the applicant has not submitted an application for a tree removal permit, but has provided a tree survey. All of the materials required in section 5.35G shall be provided by the applicant. As for general landscaping, planting and staking details shall be provided, and the Planning Commission may wish to review the landscaping plan for adequate compliance. G, parking lot landscaping. There are 46 parking spaces proposed for this site. 1 tree is required for every 10 parking spaces, for a total of 5 parking lot trees being required. There are trees proposed on the edge of the westernmost parking area. 10 more trees are proposed east of the east parking area along Burden Road for frontage landscaping and do not count towards the parking lot landscaping. The applicant shall add 1 additional tree, and up to 20% of the parking lot trees can be planted on the exterior edge of the lot, so 1 tree can be planted there. The Planning Commission may wish to consider the location of the proposed trees to determine if the standard for parking lot landscaping has been met. The frontage landscaping is compliant. For lighting, the applicant has not provided a photometric plan and lighting details and shall provide them. For vehicular parking, the total number of parking spaces required for the site is 55. The applicant is proposing 46 spaces, including 2 ADA accessible spaces. The applicant shall provide the additional required spaces or seek a variance for the deficiency. Additionally, the applicant shall confirm that the restaurant employees are included in the 8 employees for the gas station and retail area in order to determine the parking lot calculations. The vehicular ingress and egress was addressed above. For bollards, the applicant shall provide details for the parking lot posts and bollards showing their height and location in relation to the edge of the curb. The applicant is proposing multiple bicycle parking facilities on the site. A detail of the parking facilities shall be provided. Looking at drive-throughs, when the direction of traffic in an adjacent lane or aisle is opposite the direction of the drive-through lane, the required separation shall be provided using a landscaped island, sidewalk, or any other similar barrier at least 5 feet wide as determined by the Planning Commission. The applicant is proposing a drive-up window only service. As mentioned beforehand, with 2 pickup windows, only 1 pickup window is permitted. With 1 window in drive-up only service, a minimum stacking area of 4 total vehicles is required. The stacking spaces should be 19 feet along in the plans, and the lanes should have a minimum curb radius of 15 feet labeled on the plans. The applicant should also provide information about how operations are altered when the demand for the drive-through exceeds the designated stacking lane capacity as shown. Regarding fences, the applicant is proposing a decorative dark bronze colored aluminum fence to separate the outdoor seating area from the rest of the brick patio and parking. No details of the fence have been provided, but the Planning Commission shall determine if the proposed materials and design are acceptable. Regarding pedestrian circulation, the Planning Commission may wish to discuss opportunities for additional safety enhancements for pedestrians, particularly those parking at the south end of the site and walking into the building across the southern access drive and the drive-through area. Regarding the trash receptacles, the receptacle is proposed to be painted a dark bronze on the inside, and the painting of materials is not permitted and will need to be revised. And then if there are any questions, we'd be happy to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you. The applicant like to come back up.
Jennifer, if we could pull up the site plan again on my presentation, thank you. Wonderful, okay. Well, there's a couple of things to go through there. I'd first like to start talking about access with the board, if you wouldn't mind. So we have 2 proposed access points, both off Burden. You can see we've spaced those out, thoughtfully to try to make sure that as people circulate our site, say that there is some kind of backup on Burden or something like that, they're able to, go to the more southern, plan south access drive and get out of the site that way. Really, for our type of use, 1 access point is just not something that's feasible. It ends up overloading the access point. It turns into a little bit of chaos sometimes. So having 2 access points is pretty critical in the restaurant convenience industry. The other nice thing that this does is it creates some flow around. You can see we've kind of separated our drive-through use with a lot of the incoming traffic for the fuel use. And so the pedestrians actually enter in the site in between the two. We felt that was the safest location we could bring them in. So that's a little bit about there. Do we want to take this piece by piece and talk about each portion, traffic, and then we can talk about landscaping section, or how would we like to do this? Okay. Let's, if you wouldn't mind, we can start having a conversation about traffic and I suppose site circulation, if that works. So I'd be happy to answer any questions you have about that.
Well, before you do that, I just had a question. I mean, so, Giffords put together, things that are missing on the plans. And usually we get updated plans based on those comments so that we don't waste our time commenting on things that, because right now the plans aren't in compliance 100%. So I'm curious to know why we didn't get updated plans that reflect those revisions. Because if they address them, then that's that many less questions that we got to ask, so I'm just trying to figure out how best to do that, because again, typically we get updated plans based on their comments before it comes to us. Because why are we talking about it? They should be going back to their engineers, taking the comments from Giffords Webster, which is our consultant, updating the plans, then they give it to us as a planning group, and then we only focus on those things that are subjective or ordinance related. You know what I mean? Which is what our job is, not engineering. I mean, that's. To me, it seems like these plans were rushed in front of us because no matter what, we're not going to approve them because they haven't even addressed any of the Giffords Webster stuff, let alone anything we bring up. So I kind of don't really know how to.
Yeah, I agree with you there. There's a lot of areas that came up for discussion. Some of them were based on our input, some of it out of our hands that it just has to be changed. So I don't know if we go through, if he makes all the changes on here, our input would be put off for 2 weeks, and would we be in a position to modify the revised site plan if there are a couple simple things and still approve the recommendation?
Yeah, Carl, I think this commission is deserving of a formal response to all of the Giffords Webster comments. And then once we have that, I mean, I'll go home, I'll read it, I'll note my questions, put a check mark by the ones that make sense. And then we can have a discussion after we've had a chance to look at your response to all the issues. And I think you're probably going to want some time to go through them. So I think that's what we should expect.
Well, and that's, the last one was, do we vote tonight or postpone it? And I wasn't sure how this one was going to go, but our process has always been to have documents that were complete. And we're not going to get to that tonight. So,
Mr. Chairman? I still think it would be good to have a little back and forth discussion with the applicant tonight so that he's clear on everything that we have concerns about. There might be a few things here.
do you think there's anything that Giffords has not mentioned that we might come up with, questions or suggestions?
There is one on the, I have a question about that ingress egress. Is that, those, one is kind of for the gas station, is that the idea, more or less? And the other one is for the store to kind of keep the flow different? Because I could see people, it'd be nice to keep that more or less separate, because otherwise people would come in and then cross the parking area to get to the gas station. And maybe just labeling those, the southern one for the store entrance, and the other one for the,
Carl, can you shut yours off?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, the northern one would be labeled gas station, but that's just an idea that I had, to sep-
In regards to the southern one, right now it shows that it's outside of your property line. So like to me, the first question that has to be answered is how are you showing an exit ingress or egress that's outside of your property limits?
Absolutely, I'd be happy to answer that. So the property owner has agreed to give us that access into the site, and it would be used as future common access for anything that comes into the south. So we do have an agreement in our lease, as well as an ECR that we've drafted with the property owner that identifies
Yeah.
this as a second access point for our site.
Which is great. Is that in our packet? Because that's what I'm
So-
saying, like, I'm reviewing things and I see questions that aren't in our information packet, which again, makes it difficult for us to do our job, thoroughly, which is again why I asked, to me, a complete package before I, because otherwise we're just gonna go back and forth.
I want to make a suggestion and see, how it sits with everybody. I agree with Brian. I think this isn't going, we're just not going to rush this through so that we can look at it next week and say, oh, okay, everything's complete. I do agree that we should have everything updated, so any questions that these people have up here, they can review everything. We can get an update on the review letter from Giffords and just check everything out and then discuss it next week. And hopefully, everything is discussed and resolved and we can vote. But if there's a few things left over, I think that's going to be a more thorough process. I think if we just go through a list, we might miss some things. I just think it might be a little bit chaotic to try to shortcut this process. And I agree that I personally think I'd rather see all the documents complete. There's some people that ask some very good questions up here, and it might be better if they base it on information that's either written or drawn.
Sure.
So
No,
that's
can
my-
certainly appreciate your comments. I suppose tonight, if I had any other feedback from the board of other major items you may have thought of, looking at the plan that aren't included in that list, we are in the process of updating our plans. So I can appreciate your comments on wanting to see, an additional submission made. If you have any other updates or comments on what you have in front of you today that aren't addressed in the Giffords letter, I would love to have those at this time so we can compile all of those into one submission here. in the
I
next
can go
week or
down
so.
the line and see if anybody has a specific question. If not, then we can pause and then save it. But I'll give everybody an opportunity to ask if they have anything. We'll start with Kathy, if you.
Mr. Chair, I believe that the protocol is that you give the public an opportunity to speak, ask their questions, we close the public hearing, and then we continue on with that dialogue.
So with that, is there anybody from the public that would like to come up and ask any questions? I'm kind of thinking not, since the last one there wasn't. So, again, anybody want to come up? Okay, with that, I'll bring it back. I bring it back to the board, and I'm going to make a motion to close the public hearing. Do I have support?
Support.
Motion by Carl, supported by Rick, to close the public hearing for the special land use. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. So with that, the applicant wants to come back up, and I think we're all set. If we want to start with Kathy, we'll work our way down. If you don't have anything, we can put it off until we get the revised drawings. Eric?
I just have one. Do you have any idea how you're going to address the parking deficiency? 'Cause 10
So-
spaces is a lot. Would it be getting a variance, or do you think you'll be able to apply the extra 10 to the site plan?
Yeah, we're
in
intending to apply
relationship to that?
for a variance in this instance. Knowing that we have enough parking for our needs, I have parking data that I'd be happy to submit to staff that shows that at 42 parking spaces at some of our highest performing stores, that covers me for 99.9% of the time. And that doesn't necessarily include the 8 fuel, the 16 fueling positions that we have. So there's really a lot of parking allowed for on this site. The other constraint I have here is that easement. I don't want to go building anything across that, you know, it's going to create some issues there. I can install pavement over top of it in limited amounts, but if I go doing that and then they come back and do maintenance, it's going to all get torn up. So a little bit of a balancing act. So from a parking standpoint, we're very, very comfortable with the number of parks that we have provided on this plan.
Yeah, the board will have to determine if we're gonna waive some of those parking spaces, or if you would have to go through the zoning board of appeals if we get a final site plan approval on that one. But again, that's part
It
of.
almost seems like we need to see the revisions.
100%, that's why
To
I'm
get more specific on,
bringing it out there.
okay, appreciate it, thank you. Ralph? Oh,
Maybe with Jill. Didn't look at that part of the ordinance. Do your ordinance allow for any banking of parking?
I have it written down, my chance.
Okay.
all set. James?
Yeah, I don't, this is a little outside of it, but have you had any discussions for a stoplight at Burdon and 26 with the road commission by chance?
So we have a traffic study and it's drafted and we're still in the process of circulating that and getting comments back. But at this time, that study doesn't show the need for a traffic light at this time. But we've got to finalize our conversation with engineering staffs at the county. So still some ongoing. It tends to take a lot of time to work through the county.
Yeah, it's getting pretty close because I live there and I travel through there. The traffic is picking up continuously, so just a thought.
Yeah, we will make sure we continue our conversation with both your staff and then the county.
Thank you.
Rich?
Nothing at this time.
Nope, I'm good, thank you.
Just a couple things. So, I mean, at first, just not to, I understand I'm a big proponent pushing for the updated documents, but on a positive, I mean, you guys do nice plans overall. You're always comprehensive, and I do appreciate that because I remember your last set. Besides the things that Gifford Webster did a nice job pointing out, your plans are comprehensive, right? Like, we like to see stormwater management, your utilities, your grading, your existing surveys. You do check all the boxes. So you do a nice job. So I do appreciate that. I just have a couple questions. I think from a pedestrian standpoint, I think, you did a nice job because you did, it looks like you are going to be striping, coming off the sidewalk. So, I mean, you have that. To me, that should be sufficient from that perspective. I mean, the only thing in theory you could do is maybe do arrows for vehicular traffic, but I'll let your traffic engineers, take a look at that. But one question I had was, Burdon is a dirt road, correct?
I think this portion of it is paved at this point. No,
That's,
it's not, it's still dirt.
and I thought it was dirt, and so my question is, are you at least going to, I assume it's a county road, I'm assuming, like, are you at least going to pave up to your second drive so that it's a paved road from your, so that's one question I have is, are you gonna pave that, work with the county and pave at least to your southernmost entrance so that it's paved? So, so that's one of my questions. The other question that I had was, a bike rack. I know you have one in the corner with a little repair station, which is really nice, again, for the mixed use type thing, but is there a bike rack adjacent to your building?
We always have one adjacent to the building. I will have to double check our sidewalk plans, which we just got back like today. So that's
Okay.
part of why they're.
Yeah, because I don't
submitted
see
back
it
staff. We
indicated
just got 'em
anywhere,
back.
but obviously, people will ride their bikes up and, grab something. So just make sure, we see like a bike rack next to the building, to promote, I mean, if anything, you'll probably get more people riding a bike than you would walking, because where are they coming from, really? So, then I think, outside of that, I think in the new plans, you'll be showing the floor plan, so we can at least check that out. No, I think other than that, I think other than that, I think you did a nice job. I didn't have an issue with any of the other items, so, no, so yeah, those couple items and then the Giffords Webster's, thank you.
Yeah, we'll make sure we get back to you on that. Thank you.
You did good. Brian's not that complimentary on many drawings. Rick?
Just a couple of things. There was a comment made about parking, and I remember very well is at your other site, what we had talked about is the possibility, as Mr. Kirk had came up and mentioned, was banking some parking. And what we had talked about at the other site, in which I don't know if it's being utilized or not, if you've had to, is right where your tank farm is at on the north side of the property. The possibility of banking some parking there if in fact you need it. So just a suggestion. And then I want to comment also that you guys did a great job with your plans for what you had. And I personally can understand why you don't have a complete set of plans yet, because you don't have approval with a conditional zoning. So why would you spend all the money on creating a whole set of documents if you don't even know if it's going to get rezoned? So, and because you have the opportunity, the township has the opportunity to present this to the main board, which isn't going to happen next week. And it's probably going to be, I'm assuming, Jennifer, a month? Probably about a month. So you've got plenty of time to update things. So giving you an opportunity, and we do appreciate the fact that you're conscious and you're willing to do that. Mr. Chair, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. I also had a question on the paving. I know it's all gravel all the way down, but with the amount of traffic flow and customers you're gonna have going in and out, you might be creating a big mess and bringing it from the street into your parking lot. And, you know, in the wintertime, it's just, the gravel roads, that one, it gets pretty nasty. I've driven on that in the wintertime, and it's pretty nasty. So you're gonna have a lot of traffic in that corner. So it might be something to think about and consider. I don't know if it's something you have to do, but I would strongly recommend it. I just think it'd be a good idea to keep it clean, so keep the whole site clean, so.
Yeah, let's bring that back in front of you in a couple weeks here.
So I kind of think that if you follow all the things from Giffords Webster and the comments that were made up here tonight, hopefully everything's addressed and we can look at a nice clean set of revised drawings and wrap this up for you. So we'll see how that goes. So with that, we're going to make a motion, not for 2 weeks, but probably give you up to 6 meetings.
Mr. Chair, can the applicant have his plans ready for our next meeting?
I think if we have the 6-meeting buffer, that's more than enough. We will attempt to have all of our drawings in ship shape before the next meeting.
If you communicate with the planning, with Jonathan, about, you know, all of that, they can get it back on the agenda and we can look at it sooner than later. But, so we'll I'll let somebody make a motion, and we'll go from there.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to postpone making a decision on Sheets Site Plan 2025-14. The parcel ID is 15-0901, 100-005, giving the applicant an opportunity to update the drawings and give us the information that is, that we're asking for. As far as setting a timeline, if the applicant could, do you want us to postpone up to a certain period? How much time do you need?
I think we can get it done in 2 weeks, but could you give me 4? Could you give me a two-meeting span? I don't know how the board intends to do that.
It's a public hearing. I always like to do it.
That's acceptable. We will
Okay.
try to be in front of you again in a timely fashion here.
Yeah, you might run into a situation that you can't control,
The
so.
public hearing is closed, so we can give you up to 6 meetings if you'd like.
I will accept that.
With that,
Yes,
I'll make
thank
a
you.
motion to give the applicant up to 6 meetings to make the adjustments on the drawings.
We have a motion by Rick, do I have support? Support. I'm sorry, who made the, who supported that?
Ryan did. Ryan, go ahead.
We're gonna put Brian's name down there. So I have a motion by Rick, supported by Brian, to postpone up to 6 meetings. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, and we'll see you sooner than later, hopefully. The next item is item A. It was a rezoning, and we had the public hearing already, and it was closed. So I just see if Ava Miller has anything to add to it. Is the applicant here? Yes. If you have anything to add?
Charlie Stapleton, representing Lombardo Homes, the applicant. This parcel is currently zoned C3. We are proposing a split zoning of C3 and RM2 on this parcel. The remaining corner of the property will remain C3 due to the hard corner of 25 Mile and Gratiot Avenue, as well as the heavy industrial across the street of Gratiot Avenue. We believe this would act as a good transitional area from industrial to residential. The remaining RM2 portion of the parcel would be rezoned to match the township's master plan. As of now, Lombardo does not have a future development plan with this property, but being a residential builder, our goal is to keep this Lombardo ownership and develop something residential once our due diligence is completed. We are aware there are wetlands on this property and would like to delineate these wetlands, do soil testings, and any other due diligence necessary in order to, gauge the capacity this parcel could handle as far as residential sites. Please take this information into consideration for the approval of rezoning this property. Thank you.
Thank you. And just for the record, I failed to read the rezoning information, but it's this is for rezoning number 379, just for the record. And so bring back up to the board if anybody up here has anything. Kathy? Eric? Ralph? James? Rich?
One quick question. On January 9th, Giffords Webster provided us with an overview. They mentioned that the survey should be updated for consistency with the application. Did you update the survey?
Yes, I was updated to match the RM2 zoning because we had RM1 on the survey.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Mark? Brian? Good. Rick? The chair is good. So with that, I'll entertain a motion.
I'd like to, go ahead, Jim.
I would like to make a motion to approve rezoning number 379. The request to rezone 15.86 acres, property located north of 25 Mile Road and south of Gratiot Avenue from C3 general commercial to C3 and RM2 residential multifamily. Parcel number 15-09-04-5451-003 for the following reasons. The proposed zoning is consistent with the master plan. Proposed zoning will have minimal impact on public services and utilities. The applicant has not provided evidence the property cannot be developed as zoned. However, in the C3 district, only single-family residential is permitted. The proposed zoning is consistent with the surrounding uses. Proposed zoning will have minimal impact on traffic as Gratiot Avenue is a principal arterial road. There is other land available for this use, however, demand is growing. The development of this site will be able to meet zoning district requirements. Rezoning is the best way to address the request. There has been no change in circumstance and conditions since adoption of the master plan. The granting of the request would not result in the creation of an unplanned spot zone. The proposed rezoning is a logical extension of the existing zoning district, and that would be for recommendation to the board.
I have a motion. Do I have support?
Support.
I have a motion by James, supported by Rich, to approve the rezoning number 379. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. You're all set.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay, we have, the next item on the agenda is Chesterfield 5 LLC site plan, number 2025-07, M1, 4.331 acres, north side of 21 Mile Road between Gratiot and Herb Drive, parcel ID 15-09-30-352-006. This was postponed at the last meeting, and with that, does Ava have some updates? Thank you.
All right, so I'll be looking at the applicant's revision letter that they provided, and I'll just run through the list. So the first bullet refers to identifying the rear property line, showing where the existing tree canopy is in relation to the property line, while also showing the proposed additional screening. The applicant shows this on sheet L1, and appears that the existing tree canopy abuts and extends beyond the property line in some locations. In the area that doesn't have the spillover from the existing trees, the applicant is proposing additional screening consisting of 16 Colorado spruce trees. Additionally mentioned at the meeting was the mention of a topography plan, and that should be submitted as well. Regarding the second bullet point, the berm detail on sheet L1 was updated to provide the correct width of the berm at 15 feet on either side as opposed to 10 feet. The dimensions of the curb and gutter are shown on sheet C1. The applicant has provided a circulation plan for trucks and noted the fire apparatus turnaround on sheet C1. And as for updated building materials, they have been provided on sheet A1 through A3. Since the application for this site was submitted in October of 2025, only the old building material standards may be required. The front facades of each building have been revised to have a minimum of 75% brick, with the other material consisting of split-faced concrete blocks. According to the old standards, the Planning Commission should decide whether the concrete blocks is a comparably durable decorative material. To improve, according to the new building material standards, the applicant could provide a 25% brick facade on all sides except the front elevation, which requires the 75%, which is compliant. The concrete blocks proposed on all facades are not on the updated pre-approved building material list and would require Planning Commission approval to consider the material and adding it to the list, or would require the applicant to update the material according to the list or propose another material. For the photometric plan, the correction was shown on sheet P1. No parking spots or parking areas have zero illumination, but there also does not appear to be a minimum standard for lighting for this. For bollard location details, 6 bollards are proposed at the rear of each building shown on sheet C1, A1, and A3. They are concrete steel posts, 42 inches high, which is compliant. The appearance of the bollards are not noted and should be placed at least 3.5 feet from the front, from the wall of the building. The applicant provided a bike rack detail, which is compliant, except for needing to increase the height to at least 36 inches, and the applicant added a wood fence board on the trash enclosure with a metal gate frame. It is noted on the plans that these will be painted, and the painting of any material is not permitted and should be updated. A door clearance detail is provided on sheet C1, and the ADA parking was moved to have the doors open into the access aisles. We question the location of the doors in the access space, but we defer to the building department to assess whether this is acceptable or not. And then also revised was adding parking blocks along buildings. The applicant said they would like to ask the Planning Commission for a waiver on this, and that concludes my review. Thank you.
Thank you. The applicant like to address those issues.
Greg Icabelli, 53639 Christie Drive, Chesterfield, Michigan, 48051, representing Chesterfield 5. Yes, we were here 2 weeks ago, and we made several of the revisions requested by the Planning Commission. Question I got is on the facade. We've updated the drawings to the front-facing facades along 21 Mile Road will be full-face brick. We're going to use a product called Sea Brick, which I brought a brochure sample. It's basically a brick, a block that has a brick front. It's a very popular product, and it gives it is a face brick, but it's a combination with a brick and a block combined together. I have a question on the coverage. I don't know if she said 25% or 75%. Our understanding is it's 75%, correct? Okay. So we've addressed that. Pipe bollards, 3.5 feet from the front of the buildings. Is that, you want them 3.5 feet from the edge of the building? Okay. We can note those dimensions on revised drawings. The berm's been corrected. The screening in the back, we're proposing additional screening along. We bumped the curb an additional 5 feet from the rear property line to allow more room for screening there. So we think we've met that coverage, and we're asking the Planning Commission to let us leave the existing screening that's in place there on the west half of the rear property line. Photometric plan's been corrected. The bicycle rack details has been revised. The curb and gutter detail's been revised. You mentioned something about paint on the gates. Is it? I mean, usually we just do the cedar wood. We don't stain them or anything. Those will age naturally. If he labeled them as painting, then we would certainly not paint them. At best, we would put a clear sealer on them. So I can revise that drawing to correct that. And we'd like to ask the Planning Commission, the bumper blocks along the building. We generally, most of our buildings that we've built and most of the buildings we own, we do not have parking bumpers along the buildings. They become a nuisance for snow plowing. They get hit. They get moved around. Like I mentioned last meeting, I've never had in 35 years of doing this, I've never had a person pull into a building from a parking spot. It's kind of similar with a garage door on a house. Not too many people drive through a garage door. I've had buildings get hit by high-lows with the tenants. That's happened a few times, but we've never had a car from a parking lot hit a building. The parking bumpers too, if we were to put them there, we're providing 20-foot spaces there. If you do put parking bumpers there, it's going to be human nature to not pull up as close as you can to the building, and then it'll leave more cars. It'll leave the back ends of the cars staggered. Some people might stay 4 feet away from the parking bumper. When they see a wall there, it's a lot easier to judge it. But yeah, that's a waiver that we would ask for the Planning Commission for approval on that. And we have a topography. We've got a full topography. I didn't note on there that we needed to attach it, but I can attach it we would attach it to the resubmittal of the drawings on that. That will certainly be attached to the engineering drawings. It'll be provided as the engineering package. And if there's any questions, I can hopefully answer them.
Thank you. We'll bring it back up to the board. Kathy, you have anything?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't think we require bumpers along the building in the parking lot along a building, do we? So I would agree with that That's not necessary. I'm just making a statement because they're not allowed, correct? I mean, they're not required.
I'm sorry. You're going to check that? Okay, we can come back to that. Is that all you had, Kathy? Thank you. Eric?
Yeah, thank you for addressing most of the items. Now, on your survey that you submitted, does that include a utility plan with that?
No, utility plan will be created at the next stage. The utility plan will be created at the next stage at engineering. We've got an idea, we've got a storm sewer outlet, we know where the water main and sanitary lines are. We'll have to, that'll get designed with the buildings, fire suppression lines will have to be brought into both facilities.
All right, we usually have that submitted with the plan so we can see that. So, okay. Second thing on the truck simulation plan, it seems still a little tight with your radiuses on the back area of the parking. On what your diagram shows that the semis with your trailers on that turn radius seems a little close to some of those parkings that it doesn't look like it's going to meet that radius. Do you have any comments on that?
Yeah, we've got I got this late, so it wasn't attached to it, but we've got a more formal one that actually will show the simulations that we'll resubmit with the drawings.
Are you going to lose any parking?
And I believe we stepped down 3 parking spots from
Okay.
that, on this one, not from this drawing here. This
Yeah.
matches this from the previous meeting from 2 weeks ago.
I would
And,
probably like to
we
see that,
provided a
so.
45-foot radius all the way around.
Okay. I guess one last comment on traffic flow coming into a one entrance spot off 21 Mile. You got employees, you got customers, you got trucks, you got semis with trailers going into that one spot right in the middle, coming off 21 Mile, which is kind of a 5-lane highway. What's the traffic flow going in and out of that? Especially if there's a backup, especially on a rush hour. If you have a semi going in and you got maybe a shift change and all of a sudden you got 10 cars coming in and out, what do we know a traffic flow or what that's going to be?
Traffic flow will be there'll be the employees coming and going probably in the morning and in the afternoon at 4:30, 5 o'clock, coming in at 6:30, 7 o'clock. And the deliveries will be the deliveries. It's hard to, that's hard to gauge until we've got a tenant secured. We won't know that. But this is a typical development that we've done. We call this our T formation, and it seems to work fine. We don't have any issues. If there's going to be backup, if 21 Mile Road gets busy, there's going to be a backup. We'll have to deal with it. It's like any other ingress egress. There will be if you run into the situation where you might have a semi coming in and a semi leaving. That might have to wait for one to be. Sometimes that traffic turning left onto 21 onto Gratiot from 21 Mile Road could back up a little bit there, but.
Is there any requirements on a decel lane in an instance like this or no, off 21 Mile?
I don't believe the road commission would.
The road commission?
Yeah, it's 5-lane.
Yeah, I know it's a road, yeah, so, okay. I'm all set, thank you.
Thank you. Ralph? James? Rich?
I'm all set here.
Mark?
Yeah, I was just going to touch on, Eric already touched on most of it. I still, actually, the traffic patterns here for the truck, I don't see how it works. I really don't. I'd love to see something that actually shows this is viable, because I'm looking at it as proposed. I don't see that working as it's listed right here. So yeah, that is an issue for me, so.
Brian?
Yeah, just a few things. Yeah, I know that the truck thing was brought up, but I'm just gonna ask one other part of it. An average semi-trailer is a 53 footer and you have a 45 footer. So what, so is there a reason why you used a 45 foot and not a standard tractor trailer, which is a 53 footer for your turning radiuses?
45-foot turning radius is what is needed for it's the minimum that's needed for a full tractor trailer.
Yeah,
The-
yes, I see, yeah, okay. I mean, it says, I just see, I see 40, I mean, technically you have inch, but it says 45-inch semi-trailer turning radius. So I assume you meant 45-foot semi-trailer turning radius. So I'm just reading the words that your engineer put on here. I'm not making it up. So typically I would see a 53-foot semi-trailer turning radius. And so if it's, again, I'm just saying, I'm just going by what's on your plan, I'm not making it up, so.
Are you going by the length of the trailer or by the turning radius?
Well, I'm just going by the
45 foot is the
verbiage you
turning
have on here. It
radius.
says 45-foot semi-trailer, so I'm just assuming, all I'm saying is, I see 45 foot. I'm used to seeing it say 43 foot. You're saying radius. This says, I'm just using English, which says 45-foot semi-trailer turning radius. So, it's not talking about the actual radius. It's talking about the size of the trailer according to this. So that's why. Maybe you can just clarify that and confirm that you actually are using a 53-foot trailer for your radius, just so that we can confirm that it is you are using a standard semi-trailer. That would be helpful, just to kind of help clarify that one. And then obviously we'll see the simulation, and that'll be good. And then the parking blocks, just to address that. So I brought up the parking blocks 2 weeks ago. Yeah, whether it's required by ordinance, I can't speak for that. But typically, you try to protect real property. That's why they're called parking blocks. So it stops a vehicle at the wheels from hitting something, right? So whether it's required or not, I don't know. But I mean, typically, you would like to try to protect your real property. So that's the only reason I asked that. But again, if it's not required, that's something that engineering and they can work out in your plans. On your east and west side of the two respective buildings, you have an exit. Again, assuming they're fully sprinkled buildings, which I did see that, I read your code thing, and assuming you hit I think it's 250 feet for egress. So assuming all that's right, you still have at least one egress on both the east and the west side going to grass areas. I didn't see any type of concrete stoop or something out there. So is there something that is to receive people that are egressing out of those doors? Because typically it doesn't go just to grass or dirt. It usually will go to at least a concrete stoop or a pathway to get to a paved area. What's the plan for those east and west egresses?
There should be a minimum 5 foot by 5 foot sidewalk, a
Yeah,
landing
stoop or
there.
some type.
And that would get picked up at the building department as well. They would not, that would be part of their inspection along with the
Yeah.
fire
But see,
department.
typically we were looking at that, right? Because we're looking at, again, pedestrian and vehicular type safety items. So, I was just pointing that out that would be something that would be good to, just confirm and all that.
He's showing the 5 by 5 square there. We just need to label it.
I don't see it on your plan.
On A1, if you look at the floor plans.
I'm looking at the proposed site plan. So I'm just looking at the site plan for that stuff.
Yeah, we can add those and label
Yeah.
them.
Because even on your, he doesn't show it even on your floor plan, so I'm not quite sure. I didn't see any stoops at all, but it's not on there. But again, I just wanted to bring that up as just another note that, we'd like to see that.
You're right, I'm looking at it here, I'm looking at the square right here, but it's not designated for that, but we will
Yeah.
designate, we'll
Yeah,
designate the landing
That's all, I
for
mean,
that.
that's, and then, and then, if you look on your first sheet, sir, well, that's, maybe it's the second sheet, let me look. It's that first sheet, yes, the first sheet you're on. I don't think they'll be able to zoom in there, but I was curious, when you look at the parking right at the entrance to where your admin buildings are, you'll see 4 dimensions. I don't know, can you zoom into that thing? Yeah, scroll down to the main plan. You'll see 4 dimensions, 8, 8, 8, 9, and they don't line up with anything. What is that?
It's a mistake.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm looking at,
So are
the 888, the 3 8s are for the ADA spots, the two, what he did when he relocated it for the doors, he left the dimensions in the same spot.
Okay.
That's a mistake, I gotta have him redimension that.
Okay, yeah, because I was trying to figure that out because they can't be 8-foot parking spaces. They're
Yeah,
not
we'll
wide enough.
revise that. The 8 foot, it's the 3 for the ADA.
Okay.
888.
Yeah,
and then,
so
yeah.
I
Should be,
gotcha.
there'll be a minimum of 9. The regular parking spots will be 9.
Okay, understood.
Yeah.
And then I think you mentioned something about the bollards. I can't remember. Did you mention about the painting of the bollards? Because we typically, what's your bollard materials? Are you going to do like the plastic
They're
sleeve over
pipe,
it?
they're steel pipes.
Steel
They're steel
pipes
pipes
and then-
filled with concrete, and then we paint them.
Okay.
We usually paint them safety yellow.
Yeah, no, I know. Typically, we do that as well. And do we do that? So typically, we don't. Most industrial sites, you're correct. That's what we do. Yeah, I worked in the auto industry for a long time. So, but I know we started switching to the plastic sleeves because typically I know we don't allow that. But that's just something you might have to work out with the building department. I was just curious about that because, yeah, typically we like to have pre-finished products. Let's see, concrete. I think that's all of it other than.
For the, on the, if we can get it approved tonight contingent, we'll resubmit the drawings and we'll have this detailed
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah,
Keep
and when
in mind, we've got to build these buildings so they're marketable. We're not going to build these so semis can't get in and out of them. It just, we've got a market to meet, especially today's market. The buildings are more logistics. We have
Yeah.
more logistic tenants than we have actual tool and die and manufacturing guys. And that's one of the most important things is to make sure trucks can
Yeah,
get in and out.
no, for sure. I know. But, it's like anything else, right? The planning board is all part of it's like I don't want to say team effort. I don't know what the right word is, but we're one part of the whole process, right? So our board has a responsibility to the community and to the township. So I can appreciate you verbally saying those things, but that's why, again, we have to capture it in the plans. If we don't capture it in the plans, we got to capture it in a motion so that it's properly documented. So that's the reason why, we bring that up. And that's the same reason why the utilities is an important thing that we always see on site plan approvals, because like, for instance, in your case, I mean, you're taking a pervious property and you're basically making like 90% of it impervious. So stormwater management is a big deal, and understanding, like the previous applicant, not to compare, but like they have an underground stormwater retention, right? Like, and I had mentioned that to you a couple weeks ago, is just trying to understand how your stormwater management is on the site, seeing, again, we don't need it engineered, but we typically we do like to see, again, how you're managing that, because site plan approval typically is contingent on understanding where your utilities are, where they're coming in at, making sure that they're protected properly, because that might have, site bollards or things of that nature. That is all part of what we typically like to look at. So just, that's the reason why we're asking for those things. So other than that, I think that's good. Thank you.
Thank you. Rick? Anything left?
I have nothing.
The only thing that I have is with the traffic in and out. I frequent, not every day, but I frequent the CVS and a couple of the other places in there. And I have to turn left to head back home once I leave there. And it's horrendous trying to turn left out of and I go to the furthest drive away from the corner. And I found myself at times making a right turn and going in and making a U-turn and coming back. Now, that's not all day long, but there are times when that happens. So the question about the traffic and trucks, and if they're backed up onto 21, it just exacerbates the possibilities that, it could be a problem. But that's my comment on that. So,
Mr. Chair, if I may?
sure.
I worked across the street for almost 30 years, and there are times it's difficult to get out of there. But I can tell you, you can make a left-hand turn out of there, especially with that turn lane in the middle. I'm sorry, they call it the queuing lane. That's something that's been called in the past. There is traffic, especially when the kids are going to school and they're just learning how to drive.
Being close.
But I can tell you that we have always been able to get in and out of there.
Yeah, and I don't know if there's that many accidents there, and, but, I've played it safe. And coming out of the CVS, you're closer to the corner, so you're getting traffic going west, and then if it's backed up going right, sometimes you can get in the middle lane, but it's because it's closer to that corner. And the cars are backed up, we're waiting to turn left, so the center lane's not even available. So, and I understand what Rick's saying. You go further down, to the west, it's going to clear out a little bit better. So, but yeah, it's a little busy. So, with that, I wanted to address the bollard question. Ava's has some, not bollards, the parking blocks. Sorry.
Yeah, so in the off-street parking section of the ordinance, section 5.39D16, it states reinforced concrete curbs meeting the construction standards of the Township Engineering Design Standard regulations in Chapter 30 shall be required, and the use of bumper blocks is discouraged except in such circumstances as determined by the Planning Commission, where the site characteristics warrant their use.
Okay. All right, thank you for that. So, I'm going to entertain a motion, if there's nothing else to add.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion. This motion is in reference to Chesterfield 5 LLC Site Plan 2025-07. The applicant is proposing an M1 construction of buildings on the north side of 21 Mile Road between Gratiot and Herb Drive. The parcel ID is 15-09-30-252-006. Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve as drawn. Now, my approval is based upon the revised drawings submitted and drawn on 2/18/26, with the caveat that there's still a discussion with circulation throughout the site. The applicant has a revised drawing with him. I'm going to ask the applicant if he could leave it with the chair so we have it for record. And the reason for my request for approval is the fire department has closely looked at these drawings. They're very comfortable with how things are in the site, as well as the applicant, I think, has proven that or is concerned, as well as we are, about traffic circulation. Also, the applicant has agreed to make sure that during the engineering stage and the building permit stage that he includes a concrete landing outside of the egress doors. And as far as the bumper block goes, I would say that that is not something that we would want. With that, I'll make a motion to approve.
Have a motion? Have support.
Support.
We have a motion by Rick, supported by James. I just have a question on that. if we're going to accept these drawings, I did notice that the applicant was making notes and other changes to the plans. Are there too many things going on with those plans and making changes that, are we still comfortable with those plans that everything's going to be addressed? Because there were some engineering items brought up, so I'm just asking the question.
I didn't see anything that was of any detriment or concern of ours. Most of it is engineering issues. Unless somebody has something else that they'd like to add to the motion, but I don't see anything else.
So as long as we have a list for review with the revised plans, then we will probably be okay with that, and then the other items will be picked up by other departments. So with that, I have a motion by Rick, supported by James, to approve the Chesterfield Site Plan 2025-07. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank
We
you.
can have that drawing for our record. That's fine, as long as we have something for record.
Well, you know what, while he's looking for
Can I
that,
say one other thing?
yeah.
If there's any changes to the plans, would he have to come back to us? Let's say in the utility plan, retention is needed because it is mostly impervious.
Typically, the
That-
utilities are an engineering function,
Okay.
you know, as far as stormwater, things of that nature.
Excuse me, do you have any other, you wanted the whole set of drawings, right? or
No, this
just
is the revised, this is what he's going to
Oh,
attach to the.
just that?
Yes.
All the other items
Yes.
that were written down with the painted bollards or plastic and parking, you know, all the other,
I think it's incidental personally.
yeah, okay. I didn't know if I thought you wanted everything.
I took the notes. I'll resubmit to Jonathan with those changes on there,
Okay.
showing all the things. We'll update these. We'll put the bollards 3.5 feet from the building.
Okay,
Yep,
all right, thank you.
thanks. Thank you.
With that, we have item C, Morelli Lot 1 Site Plan, number 2026-01, M1, 2.2 acres, northeast corner of Chesterfield Road and Morelli Drive. Parcel ID is number 15-09-17-301-001. The address is 27025 Morelli Drive. With that, I have
Chair,
Ava.
can we we have to make a motion for me to abstain from voting because I provided the building plan on this.
Oh, okay.
Only the building.
I'll make a motion to have Eric Hyder abstain from this part of the process. Do we have support?
Support.
Motion by Carl, supported by James, to allow Eric to abstain from voting on this item. Thank you. Oh, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. With that, Ava?
All right, I'll be looking at the Giffords-Webster review dated February 24th, 2026. The project proposes an industrial building with an office and shop/warehouse The facility will be used by Frost and Kretsch Plumbing as their office and warehouse headquarters. The applicant has laid out areas for future building and parking expansions that appear to meet setback requirements. Looking at the M1 Light Manufacturing District Standards table on page 2, for the interior side yard to the east for the building setback, the required setback is 5 feet and the proposed is 26 feet. The Planning Commission may wish to discuss the note on the site plan for the 5-foot side setback and whether the building may be increased in size. As for the site standards found in the middle of page 3 regarding building materials, the south and west building elevations facing the roads are composed primarily of dimensional brick face with a small portion composed of dimensional stone face surrounding the part of the building that is designated as the office. The north and east elevations are entirely composed of pre-stained CMU blocks to match the brick, excepting the portion of the office visible from the east elevation. CMU blocks are not an approved building material. The Planning Commission may wish to review the material and determine if it is a durable decorative building material and warrants special consideration according to the Industrial District standards. Additional information regarding the manufacture of the materials, material thickness, etc., would allow the site to be further be in compliance with the updated building materials. As for parking lot landscaping found in the middle of page 4, there are 37 spaces present. 7 trees are required. The applicant proposed 6. 1 tree may be placed at the exterior edge of the parking lot, while the others must be placed within the surface of the lot within a curbed planting space. The applicant shall relocate the trees to be within the surface of the lot and provide an additional tree. The landscape plan table should be updated to show the correct number of trees. As for lighting, the applicant shall note that lights will be stationary and constant in intensity and color at all times when in use. For vehicular parking, 31 spaces are required. The site plan includes 37 spaces, 2 of which are barrier-free. The Planning Commission may wish to discuss if additional parking is needed for this use. As for the bollards, the applicant shall provide a detail of the proposed bollards meeting the requirements of the section. And then the applicant shall confirm what areas will be used for loading and unloading. And for pedestrian circulation, the Planning Commission may wish to discuss whether additional pedestrian safety measures are needed. And then we can answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to ask if we could take a 3 or 4 minute recess, real quick, restroom break. Be right back. Anybody else? Thank you. I do apologize for the interruption there. Mr. Morelli, go ahead and you have the floor.
David Morelli, 22756 Macomb Industrial Drive, Clinton Township. We're proposing to build an 11,700 square foot new headquarters for Frost and Crutch Plumbing. To clarify one thing, the north and west side of the shop are the CMU block, and I believe that's perfectly allowed. I don't know why that was brought up that CMU block is not, but we just built the building last year the same way. We do have brick all along the Chesterfield Road and Morelli Drive sides of the building, both the shop and the office. And the owner would want, he's upgrading to 3 foot of stone all around the office. So it's going to be a very upgraded, nice building. One question about the proposed bollards. Same thing as the last applicant. We do steel bollards, filmed with concrete. If the building department does not want to see something different, we can do the plastic safety yellow cover that we can always do that if we have to. The lights are, we can add that note, they're stationary and constant. They're the cutoff lights that shoot down. They don't shoot out, because I know there's a residential subdivision across the street. We don't want to have too much light shining on them, so they'll shoot down. And I'm aware now that we are short some parking lot trees. And I can offer to the commission along Chesterfield Road, we have 37 spots, 31's required, so we have 6 extra spots. We can eliminate maybe 2 spots in different areas and do a curbed island, and we can add the trees in those 2 locations. And also, the current little island that's adjacent to the office parking area, there's 3 burning bush in there. We're 1 tree short, we can add a tree in there in lieu of the burning bush. Let's see what else. We do have a loading area for the owner. And I'm here for any other questions. We do have the 5 foot berm all along Chesterfield Road as well. Landscape with trees.
You all set?
Yep.
Thank you. We'll bring it back up to the board. Kathy, you have anything? No additional questions. Ralph? No additional questions. James? I'm good. Rich?
I have a couple questions for you. First question maybe is to the commission. Are we or are we not okay with the CBU blocks to match the brick? The applicant says we are, and I don't know that we are or aren't. The report says we're not. Do we know? Are the pre-stained CBU blocks to match the brick acceptable to this commission? We have conflicting information. I'm sorry, CMU? I'm sorry. Those blocks, CMU.
The application came in just days before your building materials ordinance was adopted.
Okay.
So
Hey, Joe, turn it on and off again. There you go.
oh, I thought green meant go. I'm sorry. So our comments may not have been clear that the application did come in just immediately prior to the building materials ordinance being adopted by the Township Board. So they don't necessarily need to follow the list, but those standards that you had previously, obviously we would ask the applicant, in light of the fact that the ordinance was just adopted, if they would be willing to work with the new building materials that were approved by the township. That would be great. And otherwise, that would be up to you to determine based on the previous ordinance. If that makes sense. It does. Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Did you have another question?
I need, I need 1 more minute here.
Okay.
And then David, you're willing to note off-street loading and unloading areas as needed?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you. Mark?
Rich got my question.
Brian?
I think his alternative to adding a couple trees is that'll work. Doing the island, I don't have an issue with the CMU on the two sides because technically if he did get it in, I mean, we need to honor that. I mean, that's just all part of it. And the two sides that he has the CMU on, it's, you know, they're facing other industrial buildings, so you know, as long as it's a pre-finished material, which it says it is, I mean, I don't see an issue with it. And then I think I think we should do the yellow plastic sleeve bollard covers if possible, especially because they're going to be on the front of the building. So I would recommend that. But otherwise, I think it's sufficient.
Thank you. Rick?
I too, I agree with Mr. Carr about the CMU, especially on the, I guess it would be the north elevation. If you're going to be putting up an addition on the building, why break it now? And then as far as the, I guess it would be the east elevation, it's up against another industrial building. In this instance, especially being as the application was given, I don't have a problem with it. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. And the chair has no additional questions. Any other comments from you?
No.
Anything else from the board? If there's nothing else from the board, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion regarding a site plan approval for Morelli Custom Homes, case 2026-01. This site is 2.2 acres, zoned M1, light manufacturing, located at 27025 Morelli Drive. This planning commission has reviewed the applicant's plans and considered the Giffel-Webster report dated 2/24/26. Following these reviews and today's discussion, I move to approve the applicant's site plan as described via the Giffels-Webster site plan review dated February 24th and the details packet provided in today's agenda with two following caveats. First, the applicant will relocate trees to be within the surface of the parking lot as noted in the site standards section 4G. And the applicant will note off-street loading and unloading areas as needed to provide better understanding of required loading and unloading areas. Should the applicant agree with the above caveats, I ask this commission to approve the site plan as we reviewed today.
We have a motion by Rich to approve and supported by Mark. So we have a motion by Rich to approve Morelli site plan 2026-01, supported by Mark. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. All right, so presentation, we have Joe Baum that's going to be doing a little discussion about the data center.
Hi. Thank you. You had a lot to get through tonight, and so I understand it may be getting late, but I just want to give an introduction to some of the materials provided to you for our continuing discussion on data center ordinance language. So just based on our presentation that we prepared for you and the discussion that we had last month, just kind of taking a look at, again, as we said, where might this go? compared to other things that might be similar. So we provided a couple of definitions so you get a kind of a parameter on what we're talking about. Some of those smaller data centers, and you can see those are defined by their size in terms of square footage. For example, the accessory is just something that's part of another use already. But a minor data center might be 10,000 square feet or less, so not that big. And the megawatts, 1 megawatt capacity. So that means the amount of energy that it requires to sustain itself. Those are fairly, smaller in scale, and we can talk about that, where those might go. Maybe that's M1. But as you start increasing in size and capacity, that does seem more in alignment with the M2 district. So you'll see the table there that outlines your current standards, and one of the things that we talked about last time was, rather than creating a whole new set of standards just for this one use, that it is a better practice to take a look at the ways that you regulate things currently that might be similar, look to see what might need to be strengthened, added, changed, amended. And maybe there are still some specific things that we want to talk about with data centers, but I do think going through your ordinance, looking at the M2 district, looking at your general standards in the ordinance, I think there's some opportunities to tidy some things up, update some standards, as well as then come up with some new things that would address, maybe, bless you, not only data centers, but potentially other uses as well. So I don't know that, I won't go through each one of these yet, and I will let you let me know what you'd like to do in terms of going through this. So one option is, so we have just kind of general categories here. We've got the intent, we have the dimensional standards where we've recommended a need to increase the height for the M2 district. Maybe there are some additional setbacks that need to apply if we're going into something of that height. And we can talk about those as maybe more specific things. If you go on to what I believe, I hope I put a page number on there. Yeah, page 2. There, now you start getting into some of the impacts that you would see from the external externalities. So we're looking at noise, odors, glare and heat, vibration, smoke, dirt, dust, radioactive materials, power, electrical radiation, waste, all of those things. And looking at how the ordinance addresses those things now. There are separate standards for the M2, or there may be a little bit more leeway given to some of the uses, recognizing that by their nature they may have more impact. That might be a place to begin thinking about whether we want to tighten those things up and bring them closer together. I think all of the categories are likely covered in here. There may be a few additional things that we want to add based on additional concerns that you may have. So happy to dive more into that if anybody has any specific questions about any of the comments that we put in there.
I've got a few comments. First off, thank you for doing this. We're dealing with a unicorn as far as I'm concerned. We've not seen anything like this in the past. So I think when it comes to definition, we really have to define each of the different types of data centers that are possible. And that definition, you've talked about size and capacity, and that's good. I think cooling systems and noise, vibration, and harshness footprint, what do they sound like? Now, a cooling system can be one of a couple things. So what I'm saying is we really have to work on the definition of what we're dealing with. Then, once we fully understand those definitions, we can start to categorize these things. And then everything that you're talking about makes more sense. But we have to remember the acoustical footprint of these things it's very different than anything we've ever seen before, because it's a constant decibel and frequency 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year for years and years and years. The uptime on these things is 99.997%. which means there are no peaks and valleys on the acoustical side. What you hear day and night, every day, years and years. So we have to know what these things are by definition, and then we have to modify our ordinances and our standards of what's acceptable noise. 70 decibels going down the highway at 5 o'clock on a Friday, that's fine, because guess what? Sunday morning at 4 a.m., it's not 70. Not 70 decibels. So we have to understand what these things are, and we have to start this whole effort with definition. So if Google's coming in here and they're gonna put a 100,000 square foot thing, that's gonna sound differently than a mom and pop shop, and we need to treat them differently. So we got work ahead of us, and it should be actually a fun ride figuring all this out. And I know Mr. Siebert's talking to maybe get an expert in here on the acoustic side to talk to us so we can learn. The last thing we want to do is set up a standard where somebody can come in here, start a data center, and then the surrounding neighborhoods can't barbecue in their backyards at night because that constant noise is so irritating. We have to be able to address these things. So great start, but we've got a lot of work here. We're not going to get any of that done tonight,
Oh, no.
but we have to really understand this unicorn, and we start that with definition.
Right. And I appreciate all those comments. And the only thing I would say that, fortunately, it's not going to be tested out. We test it out here, but it's been done elsewhere. So we can look to places that have had these for a number of years. We can look at what they're doing to their ordinances to address those impacts that they've had. And we have seen, based on your comments from the last meeting, that we're focused on the noise and the sound and the low, have seen some different ordinances that are reflecting that, particularly in places where they do have them. So it is an interesting thing that we can look at.
The only comment I was going to say is, and you more or less just said it, is, why are we reinventing the wheel? I mean, these have been built for years now. There has to be communities that have now seen success from learning, right? I mean, the first one that was out there who pioneered the first data center, now that's been doing it, for decades, we should, if we can find that model and baseline, and to me, that's a start of a good draft. It's a lot easier when you're working off of a baseline than when you're creating it, and I don't see why we're trying to create it. So, so I don't know how you do that research. I mean, you guys are pretty good at it, but I'm sure you have access to those around the country that are similar type communities to ours that already have data centers. So they have ordinances in places. To me, that would be what I would like to see is, 2 or 3 samples of what you would recommend is good examples of that have been tried and passed, kind of things. To me, that's what would be helpful because, again, there's no reason to reinvent it. We can tailor it, but I'm sure there's communities that are similar to us that are, similar type communities with similar type properties that would be available that we would have to rezone, right?
Right.
And so.
Right. So to that, of course, it's very helpful to look to best practices from other places. And I think this outline is intended to help us see, again, not to create a whole separate section of our code, but to weave those things in where they make sense, where we already have them, so that we don't end up with conflicts in our ordinance. So we don't end up with like 2 businesses in the M2 district. One's a data center, the other one is a big warehouse, and we're applying different standards to those things, wildly different. We don't want to have conflicts where we're confused by how we have to deal with this and why this and not that. There may be things like the sound might be one that's just like, but again, any use that produces that kind of sound should have that same treatment. It shouldn't. We don't necessarily need to focus only on the data centers. So just being, when we see things, we're like, oh, we can pull that, and then like look at our code. Okay, how do we talk about it? maybe we tweak this, maybe we add this, maybe we take this whole thing out and replace it with this, so that we're just being consistent.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
yes.
I mean, again, you know, with my, past experience in the automotive industry and building, million square foot buildings, right? There's the three things you typically look at, right, is sight, smell, and sound, right? Are the three things that we tend to look at when we're going into a community. And so, but there's a big difference when you're building a 30-foot building and a 70-foot building. And that's kind of what I was trying to, I mean, I understand we're trying to integrate, which is, I'm just saying that the two of them are treated differently. I'm saying from a visual perspective, to me, the higher buildings need to have, in theory, different types of screening, bigger setbacks, things
Sure.
like that, right? Versus a
That-
30-foot
that totally
building.
makes sense, but
you know.
when we're talking about the odors and the glare, like, and I'm just looking at these, and the odors and the gases in particular, we have it 3 different places in the code, and they're not conflicting, but they're a little bit different.
Yeah.
So wouldn't it be good to clean that up and
Yeah,
like have
no.
a standard that it is consistent?
Agreed.
Same with the glare. M2 says glare and heat shall be deflected to prevent danger outside of any building. And then in our performance standards, it says no glare visible at the property line. Like, we could make those things more consistent or make them more clear. That's what we're trying to do.
Mr. Chair, if I may? Sure. One thing that I kind of want to discuss, and I don't know what the legalities are here, is if in fact we do get a data center, we get a unicorn, and it's this building, what about having something in our ordinance for decommissioning? Decommissioning the site, and if a bond is going to be required, if that's something that is done in this level, or if it's something done with, done with legal. That's all I really have. If you can elaborate on that.
Decommissioning is a tricky one, and I'll let Mr. Siebert chime in on his thoughts about decommissioning. We know we can treat certain uses that way and require them to be restored or mitigated because we have state statute that tells us we can. So mining is one of the examples. Some of the energy facilities, wireless communication facilities, we're allowed to do those things because we're explicitly authorized to do so. But not every other use allows us to do it. So I think that's something that we will have to look at and work through because it's not like it doesn't make sense. What do we do with these buildings when all the stuff goes up to the moon or wherever it's going, or new technology? Technology, we weren't even talking about this 8 months ago, 6 months ago. What is it going to be by the time we're done creating this ordinance that everything else might have changed? But understanding that we could have buildings, we could have equipment in these buildings, we should at least be able to provide that anything that's hazardous is removed. So I think there's some basics that we can do, and then we'll have to see what we are all comfortable with in terms of the bonds and things, the performance guarantees on those.
The issue with respect to decommissioning, there are, as Jill said, there are statutes that give municipalities the ability to require that. I'm most familiar recently with solar facilities. I'm involved in several pieces of litigation involving developers that want to put in extremely large solar energy developments, 1,000 acres. And Act 233, which regulates solar energy facilities and battery storage facilities for that matter, specifically provide that the local unit of government may require, as part of the approval, a decommissioning plan and providing financial security so that when the end of life comes for a solar energy development, that the municipality will have in place a written decommissioning plan and a letter of credit, for instance, that is updated every 5 years that will ensure that when that development has end of life, that the developer will remove all of the solar panels in attending installations in connection with the development, and if they don't, the municipality has adequate financial guarantees. That's permitted because the state law allows it. But absent state regulation, you know, a local unit of government in the zoning area can only impose regulations that are either implicit in your zoning authority or there is some legitimate governmental interest. That's always the test. And courts will tell you what is a legitimate governmental interest. But I would ask this just out loud for discussion. If you've got a factory that's, I don't know, 300,000 square foot industrial building that is auto related and that auto goes out of country and that facility is no longer utilized, that building's going to sit and remain vacant. And I think you'd all agree that the township cannot compel that factory that it's now vacant to be torn down to the ground simply because it's not being used. The question would be, what is the difference between a data center that is no longer operational and a factory or a warehouse or a gas station or a commercial strip center that's vacant? You see them all the time. You go to different buildings, you drive through the city of Detroit, you see vacant buildings that have been there since I was a kid. They're still vacant. And there's no legal authority to decommission those buildings. So I have serious, and again, this is all new. So, you know, my opinion is there's no legal authority one way or the other, but I have severe reservations that a municipality could dictate that one particular user must decommission a building when it becomes vacant, yet you would leave other industrial buildings, other commercial buildings, make up whatever use you want. A restaurant that's out of business, grocery store that's out of business, factory that's out of business, they stay vacant. You can't require them to be torn to the ground simply because they don't have any current uses. And I wonder out loud what the difference is between a data center and any of the other facilities. It's a warehouse. The only thing there is they're warehousing computers instead of warehousing clothes or, you know, whatever. So I would be reluctant to say that you have a blank check to require decommissioning, but it hasn't been tested. Who knows? And let me ask you, what do you think the reason would be that you would treat a data center differently than, say, a large warehouse, an Amazon warehouse versus a data center? Why would you require one to be decommissioned and not the other? Anybody? What do you think the difference would be?
I didn't have a microphone. Where I was going with that is, in the second part of my statement, which I didn't make it, was if we could set it on a size limit, because we currently have a very large industrial building in Chesterfield Township that sits vacant. We had Kroger in there for a while, and, you know, can we set a limit? So if it is 300,000 square feet, 500,000 square feet, can we set a minimum or a maximum that the building has to be before a requirement is made to decommission the building?
I can give you that answer right now. The answer is no. You can't say because there's a large industrial building that has become vacant that it's so large that we're not going to leave it vacant. You have to tear it down to the ground. There's no way. That's going to be considered a taking of property without just compensation. And you can have them tear it down, but you're going to pay for it. Okay, that's what the Fifth Amendment's for.
Bob, what if there was environmental hazard or something like that? I'm not saying there is, but
That's
what if there
different.
was?
That would be different.
So that-
And that would likely not be the township's issue. That would likely be another governmental agency's issues, whether it be the federal EPA, whether it be the Michigan Environmental Protection Act. There's MEPA, there's the Michigan Environmental Protection Act. There's EGLE requirements. Those agencies may very well come involved where there's a hazardous materials and things of that nature. But the townships only have those powers that are given to you by the Michigan legislature. You don't have any inherent power at all. If there wasn't a statute that allowed a police station, a fire station, all these other services, you couldn't do anything. You have to look for specific enabling authority for you to do anything. And so, you know, there are certain areas of regulation that townships just don't have any jurisdiction over. So if there's an environmental issue with a data center, the likely call on the phone would be to EGLE or to the EPA. It wouldn't be at the township level.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I have, so can we make specific ordinances that are target data centers? Or do they have to be looked at in the larger context of a manufacturing ordinance?
You could make specific data center standards, but it might also make sense to have them apply more globally to your industrial buildings. Only in the things that we think are really, really different about the data center that can have its own special standard to address it. But otherwise, it seems as though any of the things that we've talked about should apply to any business, any user. Based on the size of it, its electrical capacity, if we're thinking of it in those terms. Anything else that comes along that's like that, they would have those same standards.
And one thing, Elon Musk is talking about putting data centers in space with the sun, solar power, so.
We don't know. Either them or us.
Jim, they've got data centers off the coast of Australia underneath the surface of the ocean because they draw a ton of water and they create a ton of heat. The ocean cools them and the ocean provides water. So these things are all over the place. I've got a report from the University of Michigan entitled, "What Happens When Data Centers Come to Town?" I've got a copy for everyone if you want to bring it home. This is a huge, very important subject. And again, I think we start with definition and then just modify our ordinances to make sure that we're protecting the rights of people in the township. What you've done is really, really good. We got a lot of work to do.
And we could make that, I'll let you go on. Go ahead.
If you want to finish, did you want to finish what he had just brought up, or?
No.
Is this another, all right. I have a question. Do we have to, because I don't know what kind of a building it is, what kind of an operation it is technically, does it have to fit in our current zoning? Is there a certain zoning we have that they would go in, or can we set our own
You
zoning?
could create a whole separate district if you felt that
could
was
create a
appropriate.
district
You
if we
might
want.
call it a technology zone or something.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then this is, I don't think we have any area big enough for this, but can they go on like a brownfield type area or a former landfill, something like that?
They can. I think it depends on the property and what condition it's in and how willing a property owner is to do the work that needs to be done to make it suitable.
Yeah, I mean.
In comparison to other areas that they may not need to do that.
Well, because they're thinking of that, because some of the political part of that we hear, they're taking up big, huge former farms
Right.
or cornfields,
It's easier.
whatever.
Mhm.
These beautiful, what are considered beautiful pieces, now they're beautiful pieces of property. Before they were just a cornfield, but now.
Right.
And then by covering the footprint of the building, that's different now than taking maybe an area that that has that building that's no longer being used. Could we say you can only put it there, reuse a building or that type of thing?
I think definitely you can make sure that by creating that district, it's M2, or maybe it's an overlay that goes over different parcels, but they have a characteristic of being developed previously so that they're not farmland currently. We could definitely do that. And thinking too of where that makes sense because they're going to have, more access to the electricity that they need and probably the water as well. So those do, I think, go hand in hand.
Anyone Anyone else?
Okay.
Are you all set?
So,
or-
sure. So what maybe would be a good next step is we'll do some research and find a couple of good ordinances that we agree on with Mr. Siebert. And maybe we can then, from those, kind of point to, here's this section, how it aligns with your ordinance and where we might need new things or new standards. So I think.
I've got a question on the M2. There's only so much of that available, and the size of these properties and these buildings, do we have any property even available that would house anything bigger than maybe one of the smaller data
I don't know.
centers?
I haven't looked to see if you've got the hyperscale capacity. I don't know that you do, and probably not in the right area where it would be feasible.
So can we limit the location to the M2?
Yeah.
So, I mean, there might not be anything that's real suitable based on what we have to offer in the M2, so.
And maybe that's another piece of research we can do for you, to look at the sites and the capacity. We can look at the transmission lines as well to see where they line up with the districts, because that would be where people would be interested in doing that.
I've had people mention, well, we got all that water, you can put it near the water. Well, where?
Yeah.
You don't have the land.
Right.
So, yeah, it's a unicorn, definitely, because there's more we don't know, and it's just a lot of, cherry picking all these ideas. Would have liked that gentleman that was up there in the beginning, maybe his concerns are a little bit over the top
I didn't think
because
so.
of where he's located, that he might not even have to worry about these things being where he's got to look at the lights and that. I don't recall exactly where his property is, but
He
if
said he
he's
was
not by
north of
the
24
M2.
Mile, I think.
I'm sorry?
I think he said he was north of 24 Mile. But I,
Property where the
of-
company was gonna come in and put the cars.
Oh, okay. That's 25 and Bates? What was the zoning on that property there? That was,
But I thought that the comments that were made earlier by that resident were about water runoff, lighting, talking about the color temperature, maybe motion sensor on some of the lights. I think those are good.
I didn't
things that we
realize the
should
property was where it's
add,
at,
yeah.
so, yeah. That's a pretty
the
large piece of
screening
property.
And that goes to the other comment just a little bit ago, maybe additional setbacks with any additional building height, and more about noise. So I thought the comments were good and things very consistent with what we're talking about.
Okay, we're all set. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Anybody else on my right? Anybody else on the left?
For data centers?
Data centers? I do have a little question, if you don't mind.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I would go one by one.
I just.
The last question that
anybody
I
just
have
jump in.
is, at a last meeting, there was a comment about a subcommittee. Is that gone by the wayside?
That's where we'd have,
The subcommittee, if we're gonna have a subcommittee or not,
like we did for the,
for the building
some,
materials?
and, other things, the cannabis, yeah. We had 4 people that, got together and brainstormed some things and then shared it with the group. So, I don't know.
Mr. Chair, if I can just add, I've had a discussion with Jonathan about this subcommittee. And it's certainly legal, and it's often done where planning commissions will put together a subcommittee to meet and try to brainstorm some of the issues. But depending on what this subcommittee does, it is likely going to be subject to the Open Meetings Act. So if you appointed a committee of 3 or 4 people short of a quorum, that committee is still going to be meeting here in open, in public, to talk about the issues. So you need to know that. And you want to make sure that if you are going to create a subcommittee, you specify exactly what the charge of that committee is, what you expect out of them, and what they're sort of empowered to do.
So when we did it for the cannabis and that, we only had 4 people and we drove and we did research and went to the growing facilities and all of that. Is this because it's this topic with the data centers that's going to create that we have to have open meetings?
No, it's not because it's a data center. It depends on what you're authorizing the committee to do. If the committee's going to sit down and start preparing drafts of ordinances, for instance, to bring back to the full planning commission, if you're going to meet with an expert, for instance, to talk about what some of the parameters would be on noise, for example, you're deliberating towards making public policy, and the Open Meetings Act cases are very clear that you don't necessarily have to be a decision maker, but if you're in the position where you're deliberating towards making policy, that is oftentimes considered by the courts to be a public body. And it would be my strong recommendation, and I've recommended to Jonathan, that if that committee is created, that it post its meetings and it be done in public. The last thing you want to do is have a subcommittee meet, have somebody challenge it, and have a court decide that that should have been open to the public. So the best thing to do is to post it and have it open.
Okay. Yeah, the other committees, all we ever did was we'd brainstorm, come up with some ideas. We never created policy or ordinances. We just make suggestions and share our ideas with Giffords, Webster, depends on, who was involved. It could have been through the township. Years ago when Patrick was working with us on things, I think that's when we were dealing with the cannabis centers. I think Patrick was with us, I think. But, okay.
Yeah, just be definitive in what it is this committee's going to do. That will dictate whether or not it's going to be subject to the Open Meetings Act.
Okay. Rick, did you have anything else? Anybody else have any thoughts or on that?
None of that, but I have a comment.
Okay. Well, just jump in and we don't. Formal.
My only comment is just relate to a condensed late, so I'll make this quick, but just a little frustration in regards to, again, the consistency in the documents that were provided. In particular, like we had a good, like, because we had 3 different site plan reviews on the agenda, you can actually see the difference, right? Like 2 of the 3 candidates had, to me, the requirements mostly, but in particular, like the one that's the second time they came involved, there's no site utilities, there's no stormwater management. That is part of what site plan review is. And if anyone thinks that that's not, then I'm really confused, because I've been to planning boards around the country on that side when I worked at DT and my current job. And stormwater management, all that's stuff that we have to show. That's stuff that the board asks, because at the end of the day, we're the first reviewers of those site plans. Just again, we don't need the calculations. I don't need the data, but they have to have a conceptual plan to understand, again, how their stormwater retention. I mean, that one property in particular that came to us, I mean, they literally, like 90% of that property is now pervious or impervious. And that, again, will be engineered out, but as a planning commission, we're supposed to be vetting that. And again, the other 2 applicants you can see had the site utilities, had a general layout of the stormwater. They had, the one had an underground detention system, if you noticed, right? Telling you that, hey, this is how we're managing it, this is how we're doing it, this is how we're controlling our runoff. Again, we just need to see the high levels, but you still have to have it. It's not engineering. So to me, when those plans are coming to us, to me, they should be vetted. And there should be a consistent template that our planning department is telling the applicants to make sure that we're checking those boxes, to make sure that information is being provided to the board. Because all it does is, we're either going to miss things, or it requires them to come back multiple times. And to me, if you check the box and you make sure that the applications are consistent, to me, it's a much more efficient process. And it allows us to do a thorough review from the community perspective. That's just my 2 cents.
Yeah, to expand on that, Brian, I agree with you on everything you said about, especially with the one applicant that didn't provide the utility plan for storm, especially. And Usually nowadays that if you have properties that are, over 1, 2 acres in lot, you have to provide your own retention. So like I was trying to present before is if he didn't submit it and all of a sudden that he has to provide a retention pond if it's not underground, that could change up the whole site plan that we approve. So he would have to come back, because if it's one of the buildings gets smaller, or if he loses parking, or if where it's located. So I think that's why, we gave him a little bit of a pass by not seeing that utility plan to see if there's anything that had been actually kind of engineered as a basic plan. So, so I agree with that.
You know what? I don't agree with that. And if you're going to start requiring applicants for site plan to come in and start showing you their stormwater detention, that's what you have engineers for. And I attend, unfortunately, like Jill, a lot of planning commission meetings in a lot of communities, and none of those communities require any of that sort of detail in their site plans. Those are 100% engineering issues. They come in, you lay out a site plan, you approve that site plan, then it goes to engineering. If they can't satisfy your engineers that they can't get rid of their stormwater, they got a problem. They're not going to get engineering approval, and they're not going to get a building permit. There's nothing in your zoning ordinance, I'll bet, although I don't know it anywhere near as well as your team does, that requires stormwater detention calculations. I guarantee it doesn't. That's going to be found in your utilities ordinances that your township engineer or one of your 3 consulting engineering firms are going to review. That's not for the planning commission to start reviewing engineering calculations.
Yeah, and I can see that point. The one we're talking about, there was a lot of little things. He was marking up plans, and there was all kinds of stuff going on. And I kind of thought that we were going to ask him to, not the engineering part of it, but all the other little notes and stuff he was changing, and, a little sketch. And I thought we were going to table that until we had a full set of plans with all the dimensions and the little stuff that was being asked for.
Then you
And-
could have voted no.
Well, yeah, I didn't think it was that big a deal. If a motion was made and supported, I didn't think it was that big a deal. But Brian brings up that the consistency, that part there, I think, there's been other cases where they've been asked to clean up the plans and then bring them back, and then everything's done. But, yeah, so it's always good to have a conversation moving forward and deal with everyone on its own. So that's all I got.
Isn't part
So-
of the requirements for site plan application is provide a survey and a basic utility plan? It doesn't have to be storm calculations, but a basic utility plan. Isn't that part of the application process?
Utility, yeah.
So, in my experience, anything that's a physical, so again, I know I clearly said we didn't need calculations, so I don't know where it got down to the calculations. Anything that's physical on the site for site plan approval, to me, needs to be part of the site plan.
Well,
So,
you don't know how large the detention basin's got to be until your engineers look at it.
well, that's why in theory they're supposed to be doing that.
But that's
because
not your
that's what
call.
we're supposed to be
That's-
looking
no,
at.
Okay,
though.
my opinion is it's not the planning commission's decision to tell them how big or how deep or what the slopes are on a detention
yeah,
basin on the
no, I
property, or
agree.
whether it's going to be,
Mhm.
above ground, whether it's going to be underground, whatever it's going to be. That's what your engineers are there for. Maybe you can do a high-level review, but very high level. I don't know what sort of detail you're looking for on the site plan with respect to engineering issues. What do you want to see?
Oh, I just want to see the physical characteristics, right? Just like how we've had in the past too, where like, I can't remember the one where they had to put they had to work with DT and put a large transformer in on their site. And I remember they originally they showed it and we had provided some comments because it was like right next to the parking lot where people drive and they can hit it. So we had them like add bollards and protection around that. Because to me, that's site plan review. We're looking at vehicular safety, pedestrian safety, you know, things like that.
The bollards
And
is fair
so-
game. That's
Yeah,
totally
that's-
fair
and-
game.
But that's all I was looking at. Like, I look at the physical characteristics of the site itself. That's all I'm looking for, is just understanding how they're putting that site together. I just look at all those aspects, that's all. I mean, I don't need to see the calculations. I just want to see that what is their plan? Like, again, it's just, like I said, they show, because usually I'm used to seeing the existing site, like an existing survey, and then they'll show their proposed site plan. That's what I'm looking for. And then the physical characteristics of that new site plan off of that survey. That's what I'm looking for. It's just those relationships.
Yeah, if
Just
it-
like how, like sometimes you'll see, like I mentioned today with that one, like he's got egress going to, you know, where he's got it running into two property lines and he's like, oh yeah, you're right, that's not shown. That's the kind of stuff I'm looking for. Egress, public safety, you know, safety.
Yeah.
That's ingress and egress.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
not
yeah.
public utilities.
Oh, no, I know. I'm just looking for those physical aspects because again, we've had other ones, again, where they making sure that they're, again, from a safety perspective, they're not putting it, you know, where, because again, I look at vehicular and pedestrian traffic.
That's all
and flow.
legit. That's all,
Yeah.
that is all meat and potatoes planning stuff. That's the day-to-day drudge of planning. I get that. I'm talking about if they show, I'm gonna put a retention basin here, that's good enough. It's
Oh,
all
I
you need
agree.
to ask. It's here.
That's all I wanted. That's what, I just asked him how he was managing his stormwater, because he was showing nothing. And it's a legitimate question, Mr. Seifert, because, again, he was going from a site that was totally pervious to impervious, so asking him how he was managing his stormwater, to me, is a legitimate question, because that's all. Because like I said, if you look at sheets, they showed you, hey, we're putting an underground detention system. That's why I didn't ask any questions, because I saw what they were doing. I don't need to see their calculations or their slopes, but I know how they're managing their stormwater now, and that was sufficient for me. That's all. But I know what you're saying. I get it.
What I
Not
guess what
trying
I'm
to-
saying is stay in your planning lane and don't get too much into the engineering, because it goes beyond what the planning commission's here for.
I got
That's
you.
why you got a total set of
Yeah.
consulting engineers to look at these plans, and they may say, you know what, you don't need a detention basin on this site, there's a different way to do it. That's why they're the subject matter experts. That's all.
Understood. Yeah, thank you.
One last question. It could be more than just, you know, storm retention, you know, especially with a utility plan. We're talking about possibly, you know, electrical. What if there's an electrical overhead easement in the middle of the property that they didn't know about, since we didn't see that, and all of a sudden they have a building that goes right through a 20-foot easement? So that's what the utility plan kind of shows, not just storm and underground utilities. It could be overhead, or it could be, you know, a sanitary
But if that's the
easement.
case, they wouldn't be able to build a building.
But,
And it goes back to what Mr. Seaver was just saying about a detention pond. If in fact the engineering comes back and they say they need a detention pond, now the site plan that we approved is no good. They've got to come back in front of us anyway. It's a gamble that the applicant is taking, you know, whether or not he needs to do all these things. If in fact there's things that come back from engineering that he can't make fit, then what was approved on the drawings dated 2/18 of 26 don't match what's going to happen. He's got to come back in front of us anyway. As far as easements go, they couldn't build the building anyway. That's the due diligence of the applicant. Is it really is it our problem? And I don't feel it's our problem.
With that, good discussion, you know.
I've got one more thing I'd like to say.
I'm sorry, we don't have time.
The last thing I want to say before we go is I want to commend Ms. Vosberg with her interview on Channel 7. It was very professional. She represented our township very well, and thank you for doing that.
Thank you. So I think we're all set. So with that, I'm going to make a motion to adjourn the meeting at 9:44. Motion by Carl, supported by Kathy, to adjourn the meeting at 9:44. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.